right, we're going to get started here. We're going to get started here in just a few. By the way, if you're visiting and you're not in the chat, you can scan on your phone right there in the screen. You should be able to scan that and you can actually join us. We are live, let me see, via TikTok. Not TikTok, I mean Twitter and YouTube. We couldn't get into LinkedIn or Facebook today for some reason. All right, we're going to get started here. Let me turn down the music. Whoa, boy, that was quick. Make sure you got, all right. Looks like Jim out of Tucson, Arizona is with us here. We're going to get started here. We are going to get started here. By the way, welcome aboard. I got a little PM I got to read before we get this program started. All right, here we go, because we are live, Twitter and via YouTube, of course. So, welcome partner, welcome guest. It's our time for you to become your best. Moving away from the pollution, we seek solution. PNGZ is your conclusion. Let's grow forward. Today is a new day. Today is a new day. All right, we're getting ready to go for a ride. Make sure you buckle up, turn down all distractions. I'm Coach Santos, Stockton, California. Looks like Coach Teacher Jim is with us here out of Tucson, Arizona. And we are going to be taking on this topic today. It's a little bit, I don't know, maybe it might be a little bit of a challenging topic. We do have a proverb, and I want to make sure that we take your questions. So hopefully you got a pen and a piece of paper so that you can take some notes. You never know what's going to come out of your mind. Never know. It's always good to have a pen and paper, okay? I'm not the important one. You are, or we all are. So welcome, Laura. Welcome, Laura. Welcome, Race. City by the Bay. Yes. So am I missing something here? No, go ahead and so again, if you're a guest, we're gonna close this down a little bit. I'm leaving this scan code on. If you want to join us, go ahead and scan the code. Welcome, Jim. Give us your introduction there today. How's your wonderful geo place there in the world?
Hi, good evening there, Santos. Yes, it's been pretty hot over here in Tucson, but
Arizona.
yeah, it was cooler last week. But summer is fighting a losing battle. I say, summer will
Yeah.
be fighting a losing battle. It's gonna get cooler.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting the way the weather is moving along these days, all over, for sure, for sure. We've had an excellent week. It's been a very rewarding week. It's been a challenging week. Tristan Bosky, welcome. Moment to moment life changes. Listen, if you have a question, please feel free to ask. I'm in a very bad place today. Sorry to hear that, man. Today's a new day. So we are going to be talking about something here. Let me see if I can make some sense. I got a proverb I'm going to read. Um, we're going to be taking on this subject of like what you can do to replace gambling. We're going to look at risk. We're going to look at reward. We're going to look at pain and pleasure. So we're going to kind of delve into this topic. Maybe, right? You can come up with something that would be of equal value or greater. I choose the greater because if you're going to choose to take something on, it should be of almost the same value or greater, so that you can get those same qualities, the risk, the reward, the pain, and the pleasure, exactly what you're looking for, except you're looking at it and you're getting it from a different source now. So that's the topic. I want to get your mind thinking because maybe you do want to stop gambling. You want to just end that. You're just tired. You're tired. So maybe you can give me some ideas. Not me. I don't need it. I don't well, we can share your ideas, but I really want you to think about what I'm speaking about here. If you truly want to get free from gambling. Okay? And again, the gamble is it could be something other than casino gambling. Go ahead, Jim, you got some thoughts?
Yeah. One of the things I was thinking about
Got a
this week
problem
is,
coming. Go ahead.
yeah, I was thinking about, like, I, I think about the things that I eat, the food, and there are so many delicious things out there to eat. Fast food, grocery store, just tasty, salty, fatty, carbohydrate kinds of things. Now, it's tough to be off of these things. I think to myself, man, it's like, just because they're available, does that mean that I should eat them? And then I started thinking about all the things in life that we consume. It's like we have, I think, no more. I don't think there's been any other time in history where Americans can get all sorts of pleasures, you know, instant gratifications. I can go to the freaking Circle K, the convenience store, and buy, malt liquor, you know, Jack
Mhm.
Daniels, anytime I want to. I can go to pull up to McDonald's, get my fix on, Big Macs, chicken nuggets. I can
All the
just
good stuff.
I can go online and just consume all sorts of goofy things on the internet, right? I think about, just because things are available, should we be consuming them? I think about, why are we consuming these things? It's like, I think, okay, yeah, eventually I'll get back to a normal diet. But you know what? Where does that take me? Where does it take me consuming these kinds of things? Hateful media online, food that's bad for me, you know,
And,
messages, news, um,
and it doesn't necessarily have to be food either, physical food, because we're eating. Right now we're eating.
about like
At least I'm eating right
relationships.
now.
Yeah.
So
Relationships. I mean, think about the casino. Yeah, anyone can go to a casino. Most people can probably has like a casino like within like 20 miles, probably. So easy, you know, to get that fix. And I'm wondering,
well,
it's like, what kind of life
what
is it to just always be, you know, getting your fix, always, always, always getting your fix. Is that the right thing? You know,
Yeah, what we need to do is we need to start focusing. I think the challenge that we're having is that we're having a brain problem. Most people have a brain problem, Jim. I admit I have a brain problem. And when I started thinking about this, as you're talking about, we have all of these bad desires. We hunger for all the evil. So we have to think different, right? I earlier, when I started this broadcast, I said, today's a new day. Now, let us think about that for just a moment. How often do we stop during the day and say, man, today's a new day? Yesterday's gone. What did I learn? You're right, Jim, we're being swept away by all of these things that really don't make any sense at all. And I'll tell you why they don't make any sense. The problem is that we're so brainwashed and our emotions are so tied into these things that we don't even recognize it. We don't even recognize who we are anymore. I said this earlier before I started the broadcast. PN, podcast mission. I do plan on reading this before I go on live every podcast, as long as I can remember this. But it says it's our time to become our best. Moving away from the pollution, we seek solution. So right now, we are seeking solution. And one of the things that I'm going to share here is we definitely need to be careful with what we're saying. Um, it's about growing forward, right? It's about going forward. Let me read the proverb. It is about how we're treating ourselves, and it is what we're doing to ourselves when we're by ourselves. And we need to come to an awakening, and we need to stop, and we need to turn this thing around like 5 years ago. That fast. We need to do it. Let me get into this proverb, and then I'm going to get back to some thoughts here with you, Jim. So we're talking about something that's going to give you a risk, it's going to give you a reward, it's going to give you pleasure, and it's going to give you pain, because that's exactly what your gamble's doing for you. It's releasing those wonderful chemicals. What is it that you can find that would replace that you can sink your teeth into? Let me read this proverb, and then we'll get some more. We'll get a few thoughts about here what Jim has to share. Um, thou, this is Isaiah 26:3. And yes, I do read the Bible. I do. I don't go to church. I don't attend a church. I'm not a pastor or anything of that kind. I may talk to a pastor or two, but I'm not in the church. Thou will keep him in perfect peace. I've been really focusing on that word peace lately, Jim. The word peace. It's hard to be single minded when you're double minded. It's like you've got two heads. You ever seen those with the double heads, like the double dragons? Kind of, that's the image that we get. Most people are like, I have two heads sometimes. Thou will keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on thee. Talks about focus, a discipline, because he trusts in thee. And it's interesting, it builds into trust. Perfect peace whose mind is stayed builds trust. So we're thinking about something that you can do. That's if you're on the other side and you want to get away from this thing that is, destroying your bank account, your car, your family, your life. When you decide, your mind will begin to work with you. Go ahead, Jim. You were saying you were talking about the foods and different things, but yeah, let's.
Yeah, like you said, you're talking about pain. It's like it, I think we all have this idea. We've been brainwashed with this idea that pain is a bad thing, discomfort is a bad thing, and I can understand in a lot of circumstances, yes, certain kinds of pain is not good, like an injury or something like that. But I mean, like you talked about before, getting out of a comfort zone or discipline, to get you to where you want to go. That's painful, right? I mean, what I'm doing, painful. It's discomfort. It's hard. You know, it's not pleasant, right? Probably because I've been conditioned all these years to just enjoy, kick back in an air conditioned room, eat whatever I want, drink whatever I want, go wherever I want, consume
Mhm,
whatever I want. You know, that's how culture is, unfortunately. It's like, live the good life, live the good life, easy,
mhm.
and it seems like we've been conditioned, brainwashed not to, be a little bit harder on ourselves because it's like, I wrote this down. It says, who's responsible for me? Who is responsible? Who's ultimately responsible for me? Does anyone care about me? Maybe your family, maybe, but, you know, you got to be responsible for your own life. No one's going to do stuff for you. And if you don't start doing stuff for you, man, oh man, you're going to get into some problems. I mean, being a victim attitude, I think this country has a big problem with the victim mentality. It's his fault, it's her fault, it's this race fault, it's this sex gender fault, you know? It's the oppression that I'm a victim. I'm a victim, you know? Woe is me, you know? Then I don't have to be responsible for myself. I got to start being responsible for myself, you know, because ultimately, you know, I mean, no one's going to take care of you except yourself. And, you know, moment by moment was talking about, you know, he's feeling pain and frustration. How do I deal with pain and frustration? And I was thinking about the frustration is, you know, how do you get rid of frustration? You have to get through some understanding. You know, you got to go and shine the light of truth on what's going on. If you understand what's going on, look yourself in the mirror and really kind of write down the things that are going on, what you're feeling, and really dig deep. You know, you can find some understanding. And with that understanding, you can start putting some space in between, you know, your problems, you know, and have some of that space for solutions. You know, so we got to understand where is all this nonsense in our lives coming from? You know, oftentimes you're going to find it right in the mirror. It's like, okay, let's break it down, right? Understanding. But I mean, it's like, that's painful, Santos. Looking in the mirror can be really painful. It's like, look at
It,
that guy.
it
Oh my
can
God,
be.
what a loser. What an awful thing, you know? You know, it's like, oh yeah, look at that. Look at, you know, look where you are in life right now. You should be here. And look at this. You don't have anything. You know, you're below anything, you know?
Mhm, mhm.
You know,
Yeah,
what a
it
disgusting sight, you know. People have that, you know, but wait, you know, wait, you know, it's like,
that,
where do I want to go? You talked about focus. What do I want to focus on? Do I want to focus on feeling miserable about myself, or do I want to focus on solution? Where do I want to go, right, Santos?
yeah. It's about choice. It's about choice, and it's about choice, and it's about how are you taking care of you? You talked about that. How are you taking care of you? We uh we all have bad habits. Some of us have really bad habits, and we we don't believe we can break that bad habit. We don't believe that, even though it could be broken easily. We're so deluded in our thinking process that we convince ourselves to do the wrong thing. We actually convince ourselves to do the wrong thing instead of convincing ourselves to do the right thing. Well, hey, there's a thought, right? Why don't you win the battle of convincing yourself? How does one do that when you begin to look at yourself from a whole different perspective? For instance, if you were to separate yourself from yourself, let's separate ourselves from ourselves and let's look at ourselves. How do you see that person? Do you see that person well? Do you see that person excelling? Do you see that person failing and moving on? Or do you see that person kind of hiding, maybe skittish, unsure? You have to be able to determine, again, it's all about life. Life is about risks and rewards. It is. It's about pain and pleasure. You're seeking something every day that's giving you something from that arena that I just spoke about earlier there. Pain, pleasure, rewards, risk. Oh, I don't want to take that risk, but I'll take this one. It's worse. You have to, you know, this is a challenge to all of us. You know, one thing that I'll tell you, one thing that's going to help you, it's going to help us, Jim. I'm going to give it to you right here. One word. It's going to help. It's going to make a difference in your life from today going forward. Because you've heard this word before, but you've never really thought about it. and today's a new day, you must get curious with yourself. The word curious, curiosity. Start sprinkling curiosity over yourself when you get up in the morning. Be curious. Be curious about this podcast. Be curious about sharing this podcast. Oh, what if I share this podcast? Hmm. Would that help me? Would that help Coach? Would that help Jim? Curiosity. Curiosity. Okay, what can I take on? Is there something that man, I'm tired. I seen it in the comments. Was it race? I'm tired. Just tired, man. What could you take on? Would it be a play on words if I said come up with something that may work? What if you could come up with something that may work? Well, Santos, I want to come up with something that will work. Okay. But what if you came up with something that may work? Curiosity. What do? You grab the old fashioned handy dandy pen and paper. See if I can get some thoughts here on this challenge. It's kind of like a challenge that I'm presenting tonight. Again, it's a new day. You know, yesterday's gone. You gotta what happened an hour ago, what happened 2 hours ago, you gotta let it go. Right? Let it go. Gone. Boom. Don't think about that pink elephant. Don't think about that little pink elephant in the corner of the room. Don't you think about that little let it go. Let it go. Right? Throw that pink elephant out the window. You see the little pink elephant, little tiny pink elephant thrown out the window? Ooh, can you see it? What am I doing? It's not a play on words here, but what if you could? What if, hypothetically, if you could come up with something that would challenge what you're doing that you want to get away from? All right, go ahead, Jim. I got some thoughts here on the in the text.
Yeah, I was thinking about I was thinking about positive situations in my life, and I'm thinking about how I take those positive situations for granted. In other words, the emotional connection that I have, the I guess the intensity of being grateful for those things. It's not really there. It's like it's almost like expected. It's like when you go to a restaurant and you eat food, it tastes fine. It tastes how it should be.
Mm.
So you're not jumping up and down. It's like, "Oh, this is great." You're not saying that this is acceptable, you know? And I think in our lives, normal, you know, just a peaceful life, you know, is accepted, but it's not really intensely appreciated. You know, the bad stuff is way down there. You can get awful, it's horrible, you know. But when the point that I'm making is when we're trying to shoot for a goal, for people on this show, their addictions, one day at a time, staying away from that addiction. I think it's very important to get excited. You have to, manufacture like an intensity of an excitement that, yes, today, no gambling, no addiction. Today, I did it. You got to focus on that and you got to get some type of excitement to that. Something, because that intensity has to drive you forward. Now, I don't know. I was thinking about what kind of people do you hang around with if you're trying to get away from your addiction? You got to have encouragement. You got to have, an environment around you that can motivate you. I understand that self motivation is important. You got to pump yourself up, but you got to be. I guess you got to be creative. You got to be around in an environment where the small things that you do push you forward. Towards that deal. So you talked about curiosity, getting curious about how can I get myself motivated? How can I go ahead and pat myself on the back? How can I get excited about the transformation I'm going to be making towards, an addiction free life? You know? And I think that's a challenge right there. I think that's something that we should get intrigued about. It's like, today was great. I did it. One day I was away from the casino. One day I was away from the drugs. One day I was away from, the toxic stuff on the internet. You know, one day, you pray about that. You say, thank you very much. You wake up the morning, right? You say, today's another day, like you said, you know, and
Hmm.
you go ahead and say, you know what, I can do it. Get excited about it, get excited about it. We have to kind of remember to get excited, pump yourself up, listen to some good music, right? Be around some good people, get some people on your side, to encourage you.
Yeah, welcome, Jim. Exactly. And we have the perfect gift to do that, the mouth. It's amazing how we turn around this thing that we have here, this wonderful gift. We use it for our own destruction. We get up in the morning and we start destroying ourselves right from the beginning of the day. Never mind at nighttime. What's going on before you lay down your head? You're supposed to be repairing throughout the night. You're supposed to be growing, excelling, succeeding through the nighttime. Instead, you're tossing and turning in your bed because you went to bed, you had no peace. You need to be curious. My friends around the world, they're Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. You have to be curious. Uh, I'm starting to feel honestly, I'm starting to feel afraid for some folks lately because I'm seeing a brain damage in people that it just doesn't. I wonder if they're going to come out of it. If you're gambling in these days that we're living in of heavy marketing and heavy technology and artificial software and robots everywhere, you're in a dangerous place to be in the casino, especially if you're gambling. It doesn't matter what the addiction is. If you're gambling with it and it's basically robbing you and it's tearing you down. I was a liar. I was a thief. I stole. I covered. I tried to take from Paul to pay Peter. They never got paid. So I understand what you're talking about, Race, Barry, moment to moment, Laura. Man, I remember those dark days. They were dark. They were dark, and I wasn't just dealing with gambling. I was dealing with a bunch of other stuff, insecurities. Well, I didn't know who I was. Imagine you're living on this planet and you don't really know who you are, and then you come into an awakening, and you're like, wow, man, where have I been? How did I get here? It's like you stepped into a portal, and gambling's gone now. Gambling's gone many months, years now. Uh, I guess I got curious. Well, you got to get your idea on paper. You got to get it on paper, even if it's hypothetical. The way that you're going to challenge yourself is by challenging yourself. You got to get it on paper. You got to see it because once it's on paper, then you can actually begin to draw something from it. You can't build a building unless you have a blueprint in front of you. You can't stir the dirt. You can't run any not the lawnmowers. You don't want lawnmowers running over the dirt. Caterpillars, right? You can't do any of that unless you see the fine writing on paper. The blueprint, it's got to be, and some blueprints, they have to be double checked and double, triple checked. You've gone through planning departments and stuff like that. People have problems with. It's the same thing with our lives. We have a blueprint, and you got to get better. You must get better with the blueprint of your life. Separate yourself. Be curious. Man, how am I going to take care of myself? Make sure you're drinking plenty. Yeah, sometimes I overdo it with stuff. I'll admit, sometimes I overdo it, but man, most of the time I'm drinking myself enriched water. I may not eat like a horse like I used to anymore because I can't work out because I'm dealing with a bunch of pain, right? I got to deal with pain. But I'm making the best of it, man. I'm in pain I'm in pain when I'm sitting here. I'm in pain when I'm sleeping. I'm in pain. It's my back. I'm not going to get operated on. It is what it is. I'm going to get a big steroid shot back there. Hopefully that'll help me for a year. Yeah, big needle. Actually, they're little needles. What am I getting at, folks? I hope that you're writing something down. I hope that you are looking at your life and you're beginning to think, man, what could I take on? What could I take on? You could be writing it down right now. Either that or we're going to be down that road like Jim's talking about. We're going to be complaining, why this, why the other thing, and then we begin comparing ourselves to other people. Worst thing you want to do, worst thing, worst thing you want to do is compare yourself to somebody else, man. You're already double dipping. You're sinking in that quicksand. Somebody's just going to push you down further, faster when you begin to compare yourself. It's all it's a head game. It's a battle zone up here that you must realize and you must conquer. Okay, you got to bring it down. Become curious. I was acting like Batman earlier. I put on my Batman voice. I thought for a minute there I'm Batman. Hey, maybe I can think like Batman. Play the game. Be curious with yourself. Don't matter what the world thinks. You know what? I'm in front of the audience here, being me, childlike, thinking. I'm free from gambling. And I promise you on the other side, I promise. I promise. I promise. I don't know if you're willing to promise yourself, but I'll promise you that as long as you come here and you work with me and you listen, take notes, I'm like Jim said, I'm just going to inspire you. I'm going to help you raise your level of thinking just like somebody helped me raise my level of my level of thinking was like a flea. It was like you get fleas, and I'm grateful. I'm super grateful. I put in the work. Jim talked about that. In fact, I'm going to let Jim have an opportunity to share. You got to put in the work. I come here excited to this broadcast. Why? Because you guys are going to challenge. I'm growing here. I'm learning, man. I'm getting, come Monday, my arms are going to be bigger. Hopefully my legs will. They're a bit small. I've never had thick legs, but might as well use my imagination. So, anyways, go ahead, Jim. Go ahead. I'm going to have a good time regardless. Regardless, I'm going to have a good time. So you might as well. Go ahead, Jim. Did you freeze up? Hold on.
No, no, I'm here. Yeah, I mean, like, you know, having a chance to go and think about yourself and what's been affecting you. I like to go and think in terms of demons. Demons that have affected my life and my choices. My actions. And I like to go and think about when I think negative, when I you know do certain things or feel certain things or judge. I just think about like demons taking over me. And when I put that in mind, I stop and I have a chance to think. It's almost like a focal thing, a focus. It's like, you know what? It's trying to take you down. It's trying to take you down. You know, the negative thoughts, the bad stuff. The choices.
Mm-hmm.
The decisions, what you choose to do, what you choose not to do. The way you act. Towards certain people. It's like you say, there's some evil. There's some evil going on. Up here. In here. And for me, it's like I like to say that my current self is working on going back and taking those bad former selves of my life back. Like today, I was running, and I was thinking about you know my past self, all my past selves who that I was disappointed with. And I'd be running to go get those guys who were fallen, attacked by those demons. Sounds crazy, sounds weird, it sounds strange. It's like, my gosh, what is this guy thinking about? But it gets me thinking about myself. and what has been affecting my life. And I think about, where are my thoughts taking me? Where are my thoughts taking me? And a lot of times, we just think something and we go on it. We just we take action on it without really thinking about it. It's like, why am I doing this? Why am I feeling this? Is this a good feeling? Is it a positive? Is it a caring feeling? Or is it a negative feeling? Is it hurting myself? Is it hurting other people? You know, I mean, it's strange, but once we start, taking a moment to start thinking about, where this stuff is coming and asking ourselves, do I want this in my life? Do I want these feelings? Do I want this action? Do I want these consequences in my life? Just a split second, and you start adding those. It's like it starts turning that ship around. It starts moving you off in the wrong, in the right direction. I was thinking like in running, today, the body's doing the work, but the mind is taking. It's like a combined effort. The body is moving you in a direction, but your mind, that's taking you in the direction that you're choosing, right? What are you thinking? What are you thinking? And do you want to go there? Do you really want to go there? The body can take you. The body can probably do it by itself if it's conditioned. And unfortunately today, we've been all conditioned to satisfy our pleasure zones, right? To get out of the discomfort zones, go to the comfort zone. It's subconscious. We talked about that before. The subconscious, it's been brainwashed, it's been hijacked, to a point where it's just destroying our lives, destroying our savings accounts. It's destroying our livers, it's destroying our minds. So we got to go and start, pushing back on what we're thinking.
Exactly. Exactly. We got to get to work. You must. You must decide. You must look at yourself. We need to just slow it down. I want to play a clip here for a few minutes. A friend of mine, his name's Wayne, passed away. Jim might know who he is. Some of you might know who he is. I'm going to play a few minutes of him. I'm just going to catch the video and I'm going to let him speak. And hopefully, he has a message for you and for me, for all of us here. Uh, when you write something hypothetically on paper, you become curious about that. The way you win in life, the way you're going to win in your life is through writing something down so that you can become curious about it. It could be an imagination, it could be an idea, it could be whatever it is, your solution to the problem that you have with gambling. Obviously, I'm reading the comments. Some of you have severe problems with gambling. But again, turn on belief. Today's a new day. Remember that. Today is a new day. You can turn on belief. You can learn from your failure. That's the way to grow. That's the way to become efficient through reading, through studying, through pondering, thinking. When you can convince yourself of this thing that I'm talking about, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, when you can convince yourself of something, whatever it is that you need to convince yourself of, that's when change begins to take place. Right? When you can convince yourself of this, your problem will melt. Go ahead, Jim, if you want to. Let me see.
You
I'm
know,
going to, I got to,
I'm thinking about, you know,
mhm.
the people who are talking about their problems, you know, eh, losing $1,500, I guess, that week. It was at the city by the bay or something like that. Said they lost $1,500, or was it moment by moment? I'm not quite sure. I forgot.
Yeah, I could
But
see.
one of the guests talked about that, and that kind of stuff is painful. But I was wondering, can you use your pain, you know, as
Well,
as
of
fuel for
course.
it's almost like an elastic or like a rubber band, that I guess that's called resilience. It can go ahead and spring you, in the direction that you want to go. So I mean, I like to go. You can go and focus on, admitting that you have a big problem with your addiction. You know, you can go and say that this is the starting for me to repair myself. It's the beginning, because the addictions that we have, most of the time it's a symptom of a deeper problem. And if you recognize that, this symptom, you can repair your entire life. It's a process. It doesn't happen overnight, but I mean, you start becoming aware, that
The
you know what?
floodlight. The
Yeah,
floodlight needs to be reversed. You know how you have a floodlight that shines in front of the house? That floodlight needs to be turned inwardly. It
for
needs to go
losing that
inside.
$1,800.
Um, we're going to play a little bit. I know we're coming close to the end of the broadcast here. First of all, I want to just say, I want to take a few minutes here. Listen, if you're benefiting from this broadcast, if you benefit from this international broadcast, I'm going to ask you to soldier subscribe. Make sure you turn your notifications to all. Please share. It's good to share. We're helping a lot of people. You may not videos or share one of my lives. You're touching somebody else around the world. And there's some really hurting people. We're hurting here too. I can see some hurt, but at least you guys have access to something where, you know, I don't know what's holding you back. I have no idea what's holding you back, but you're here. So that tells me that you're hungry, but I don't know what you're hungry for. Remember the number, keep the number 23. Support this mission financially. Once again, if you feel like I'm supporting you, please support this financially. Keep the number 23 in mind. So leave a comment, a share. We are putting videos out during the week. I have emails during the week that go out into your emails, little encouragements, whatever news, different things that may come out. It's called SciTech. We've got plenty of tools. We've got a boot camp. We've got GABA. We've got other digital products there for you've got problems with you're depressed. You got suicidal thoughts. There's a program for that. I just created that about 6 months ago. It's in there. There's another one on to help you think about job hunting or building wealth or building a business. There's one in there for that. And then there's the gambling addictions boot camp. They're all there. They're tools. I'm asking for your support. You don't have to buy anything, but if you could share something that could help somebody, whether you're struggling yourself, you can you can actually support yourself by doing something for somebody else. It's like you're getting out of yourself. You're splitting yourself in two, and that good part of you is giving something away, and that good part of you is also going to give something to you in return. Because the seed that's planted, if it's a good seed, it's going to come up something good crop. If you plant a bad seed, then expect a bad crop. Expect it because it's going to happen. So we've got books, we've got tools, coaching is available. I've got one spot available for coaching. Again, if you can't do it by yourself, why not do a little bit of an investment? Take a few pennies out of your pocket instead of giving it to these, the drac or giving it to the roulette or the craps or the roosters. People are betting on roosters and dogs and stuff like that, watching dogs tear each other up. Wants to watch all that. It's just it's crazy how much stuff we would want to get into that's really gore, like watching dogs and animals and people too. I mean, sometimes I'm getting to the point where some of this UFC and boxing is really violent. To me, it wasn't, you know, but lately I can't really sit there and watch two men pummel each other anymore. It's kind of hard for me to do that for some reason. Um, I'm just not into that. I'm into other things. So, anyways, with that said, let me play a little bit of this clip here. and see if we can listen to some.
Not in the traditional way that we think of when we think about changing our lives. Usually that means changing your behaviors, retraining yourself, getting new habits, going out and trying them out and changing your life. This is about changing your thoughts, and then your life will change. Change your thoughts, change your life. It's the name of this program, it's the name of the book. It is something that I very, very strongly endorse, that we have within us the ability and the capacity through the way that we use our minds and the way that we process things and events to make our lives totally shift and change around. And I can tell you that it doesn't make any difference what age you are, whether you're a teenager watching this, or whether you're someone in your 60s, 70s, 80s, or anywhere along the way, you can make that change. And I'll tell you, it happened for me. 2 years ago, on the 10th of May, I turned 65. And the next day, on the 11th of May, I had a life-changing thing take place for me. I changed the way that I was thinking about who I am, about what kind of a man I am, about what kind of a person I intend to be for the rest of my life and where I'm going. And something began to resonate with me that I had to make a shift and make a change at the age of 65. I had a wonderful office, which was really a townhouse. It was filled with over 20,000 books. It was filled with clothing. It was filled with records of all kinds. It had pictures on the wall. I had awards that I had received over the years, and everything that I had accumulated, literally, in this physical world, had accumulated in that office. I turned the key and handed it to my manager, Maya, who's been with me for almost 30 years. And I said, I would like you to sell everything or distribute everything that's in there. Sell the townhouse, get rid of it. Take all the records, all the books. I got rid of my shoes. And I left it all behind and turned it over to her to get rid of everything. I detached myself from a lifetime of accumulations. And I moved full-time to a place over in the middle of the Pacific Ocean on one of our great islands called Maui. And in the next months, I began to get a lot of things coming to me about what my life was to unfold, things that I wasn't even expecting. And I think about this idea about what age you are and whether or not changes and shifts can be made, and how difficult so many people attribute this to. They say, that's an impossibility. I couldn't possibly do that. I'm so attached to all of these things, or I'm too old. I've been living in the same place too long, whatever it might be. Right here in this audience is one of the women that I revere, I think more than any other woman I can think of in the professional world. At the age of 60, she changed her thoughts, and her life changed dramatically. She started a publishing company called Hay House, which is one of the world's largest publishers of spiritual and higher consciousness materials. She wrote a book called You Can Heal Your Life. She's here today. Her name is Louise Hay. Louise, would you stand up and be acknowledged? Thank you, sweetheart. Louise, with a great number of people from all over the world, just celebrated her 80th birthday. So,
Of course, these people might be passed away now.
I should look so good even at 60, all right? And I'm just so deeply honored that you're here, dear. Thank you. What happened for me in the next few months was absolutely life-changing. I had a friend tell me who was severely addicted to all kinds of drugs and alcohol, who was basically very close to death. He refused all kinds of treatment. He wouldn't go through the programs and so on. But he read a book, and the book was called The Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching. Taote.
All right. Okay, we're gonna end there. There's some things that I'd rather not discuss because I don't not into that stuff. We all have our own. You got to be like the cow sometimes. Take in what you can and then chew, spit the rest. Spit it out. Right. That's the way. That's the world we live in, and you got to build up that warrior spirit within you. So we've come to the conclusion of the broadcast here. A couple of thoughts. That was Wayne Dyer, and he passed away a few years ago. He has some really good. The one thing that I learned about Wayne Dyer, if anything, it's really just about stepping back and relaxing about things. Just stepping back and just being calm about instead of rushing all the time. It's one thing that I picked up from him, from Dyer, is just you know you don't have to be hooping and hollering and motivated all the time. You can just be, you know, you can bring it down and at peace, like the Batman voice. So, um, again, my call to action to you is you got to come up with an idea that's greater. I wouldn't say of the same value because, again, it's about risk, it's about reward, it's about pain and pleasure. What could you do that would bring those things into your life and help support your way out of problem gambling or the scratchers or the card room or the roulette? They got other ways to gamble these days in the casinos. They're coming up with more sophisticated. So if you are going to allow them, and I'm not being judgmental, I'm not going to be, but I'm going to say the truth here. If you're going to allow them to deceive you, guests, they will deceive you. I remember Jesus spoke about this in the Bible. He said, many false prophets and seducers and liars will arise, seducing many. I think about that all the time. That's the spiritual word, seducing many. I often wonder in my own life, where am I being seduced? We don't stop and think. You could be being seduced somewhere. And man, it's one thing to be seduced. If you come to find out and you can't do anything about it, too late. Better to know ahead of time. So take that, write write it down, keep it. Study, read, ponder, and be curious about that thing. Be curious about that vision. All right. Go ahead, Jim. Let me see. I've got a few people that are. Go ahead, Jim. I want to.
Yeah, Wayne Dyer was talking about thoughts, change your thinking.
Mm-hmm,
I mean, yeah, that's true. Um, you gotta are if you gotta have a goal, like you said, you gotta focus on something, and you gotta go ahead and get your thoughts right. You gotta have a plan. You gotta have a plan of how you're gonna think when you get to those urges, those cravings. You gotta have you gotta have that kind of armor, those weapons to fight off against the emotions, the feelings, the thoughts, the temptations. You got to arm yourself.
mm-hmm,
You got to prepare yourself. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like you're going to get to a point where you're going to be hungry. You're going to be thirsty. You're going to be itching, you know? So what are you going to do? All right. Arm yourself. It's like, hey, Jim, do you remember the last time you did this? Do you remember you did it? Do you remember how you felt after you did it? Do you remember that? Why don't you go ahead and close your eyes and remember how you felt? You know what? That doesn't taste very good. That doesn't feel very good. That doesn't smell very good, you know? I don't think so. You see, we have to arm ourselves with the right thoughts. The right thoughts. A plan. And it's like he talked about thoughts or change your thoughts. you have to direct your thoughts and connect it with emotions. Like in this example, it's like connecting thoughts at your will with emotions. You use
Mhm.
negative emotions at that moment of the craving, to say, you know what, I don't want. I remember how bad I felt. I remember crying in the parking lot or on the way home driving
Mhm.
after that awful, awful night when I did that. I remember when I looked at my bank account. I didn't have any money. I was overdrawn, you know. I remember, my kids, I couldn't buy any groceries for my family. I remember that. I'm not going there. That felt awful. That felt awful. Close your eyes and remember how it felt, you know. And I think another
Yeah.
important component of like changing, to the better is that the idea of faith. I think that's why religion is so important, when you're going to be making a change, because you know what? Oftentimes we look at ourselves and we see, that we can't do stuff. We see failure, you know?
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
believe, you know what, there's a creator that didn't make any mistakes, you know? You know, and that person in the mirror, although that person did make mistakes and has made many mistakes, before that person can go and be the best solution to a better life. It hasn't happened yet, right? It hasn't happened yet. But to believe in yourself, even though you can't see physical stuff, you know, I mean, if you can have that change of mindset, right? Of believing in yourself, right? That faith, believe in a God, right? That believes in you, you know, gives you the ability, you know, all the tools necessary to overcome and be victorious, right? I mean, it's like, wow, that's uplifting. I see hope, I see light if
Mhm.
I think that way. We talked about belief last week, right? And I
Mhm.
think a major, major component of, believing in the right direction is that faith, have it in
Mhm.
God, having yourself, but yeah, make sure it's something that you can use for you towards your benefit. And I think that's the right kind of thinking.
Mhm. Well, that's it. I'm going to close off here with this. We've already gave the call to action. So again, we all have choices, right? Tomorrow's going to be either better for you or it's going to be bitter. It's going to be better or bitter. So we're going to be departing here with this thought, right? It's our time to become your best. Moving away from the pollution, we seek solution. PNGZ, permanent no gambling zone, is your conclusion. Let's grow forward. Today is a new day. So we'll be back here Sunday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you for hanging out. Appreciate Jim there sharing his thoughts, his wisdom, all the way from Arizona. Laura, let me see. Laura, thank you for being here with us. Tristan, thank you for hanging out. Barry, Race. There was quite a few of you guys. I know there was some invisible women and invisible men. I didn't get a chance to see them. There's Jim West. I got Race, Scrapping. See, Scrapping DMK. There we go. There was John Lennon. Famous John Lennon was with us. We got Barry. Barry Bob. Was it Barry? Yeah, Barry Bob. City by the Bay, moment by moment, life changes. Thank you guys. I truly hope that today you think about this being a new day for you. Who else? There was Laura. Thank you for being with us, Laura. Thank you for sharing. Be safe out there on the roads. And Laura, you work hard for your money. You work very hard. I shouldn't say you work very smart for your money. Well, you might be working hard for your money if you're losing it. So save it. Again, just it's a good time for truckers to be putting money away or doing some other. Um, our currency isn't the best. Our currency isn't the best, but we have to do something with what we can. All right. With that said, I think we got everybody. Yeah. All right. With that said, I still see a big number. Once again, thanks, Jim, for hanging out. Um, pray a good, safe week your way. And to the rest of you, for all of us, actually, peace, belief, time to take action. I'll see you guys next Sunday.
Thank you, Santos. Have a good week.
You too, Jim.
Take care.